I just future-proofed my DualSense Edge by adding these drift-resistant Gulikit adjustable tension TMR sticks and the ExtremeRate trim replacement kit. In this video, I'll be going over the full mod installation, tech and game tests, and offering my final thoughts on the finished product. I'm also excited to announce that this video is sponsored by PCBWay, but I'll talk more about that later. If you dig this video and want to see more, consider subscribing and hitting the like button. Alright, let's get into it. So I actually installed the ExtremeRate trim kit off camera because it's super simple, but I'll include a link for that in the description. Luckily, it's very convenient to access the Edge stick modules since they're built to be swapped out. In order to access them, you have to remove the front faceplate, release these latches, and they should pop right out. Depending on which modules you have, you'll either see one screw on the bottom or three like mine. Once the screws are out, there's a little anti-tamper latch that needs to be loosened on one side. After some work, I was able to remove the bottom part of the case and gain access to the motherboard. Next, I added some flux before using my desoldering pump to remove the old joystick. There's a lot of tiny parts on the board, so it's important to be careful during this step. After a little work, I decided to separate the sensors on the sides to make removing the stick a bit easier. I also used some desoldering wick to pick up any excess solder. Once everything was out, I cleaned up the board with a little 99% isopropyl alcohol before making sure the new joystick fits. Then I moved on to do the same thing on the other module. Before I solder in these new sticks, let me tell you about today's sponsor, PCBWay. If you're like me and love to do custom mods on your gaming gear, PCBWay is a service you need to know. Not only do they make custom PCBs, but they also offer 3D printing, CNC machining, injection molding, and flex ribbon fabrication services. Now, if that sounds daunting to you, I totally understand. Before I got introduced to PCBWay, I only used pre-built parts for my mods, but thankfully they make it super easy to order from their website. You can even check out open source projects and order parts directly from those pages. So if you want to jumpstart your new project, be sure to check out the link in the description to get $5 off your first order using PCBWay. Big thanks again to PCBWay for sponsoring this video, and back to the mod. Okay, so now that both stick modules are ready, I began soldering in the new sticks, being careful not to touch any of the small components. I love using a chisel soldering tip for these projects and definitely recommend it if you do this yourself. It makes through-hole soldering a breeze and lets you get into some tight spaces. All the joints look good, so I cleaned up the board and moved on to the last step of this mod. In order for the Edge module to save its calibration data, you need to connect 2 test points on the motherboard. You can do this in several ways, but I chose to connect them with a thin piece of conductive metal tape. I prefer this method since it's easy and has a low profile. I also added a small piece of Kapton tape to prevent any shorts. Then I did the same thing on the other module. For this one, I only used the metal tape to see if it caused any issues. Once both modules were reinstalled, I plugged the controller into my PC and checked it out in Gamepad Tester. They both look good, so I opened the DualShock calibration GUI to calibrate the center and range. After rebooting the controller, I noticed the left stick wasn't saving the calibration data, so I reopened the module to redo the connection. Thankfully, the calibration data was saved to the board this time, so I cleaned up my soldering station and moved on. Back at my testing setup, I ran the controller through a few more rounds of calibration and ended up with a nice 5% circularity error for both sticks. I also adjusted the tension on both sticks to my liking. My left stick ended up at about 70 grams of force, and the right stick is around 85 grams of force, which feels great. Then I booted up Fragpunk to test everything out. The stick tension is exactly how I like it, and they feel accurate and responsive for first-person shooters. I'm a big fan of this game, and if you're into tactical shooters like Counter-Strike or Valorant, I definitely recommend it. I mean, look how cool these weapon animations are. I'm not sponsored or anything, I just think this is a really underrated game. So there you have it, my future-proofed DualSense Edge is complete. Once again, I'm a big fan of these adjustable tension Gulikit TMR sticks. They add an extra level of customization to this controller, all while being more power efficient and drift resistant. The front panel of the ExtremeRate trim kit is a little creaky, but the backplate is really where it shines. Overall, I'm really happy with the results of this mod, and I love how easy it is to access these stick modules. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you want to see more videos like this, consider subscribing and hitting the like button. Big thanks again to PCBWay for sponsoring this video, and stay tuned for more projects with them in the future. Alright, I'll see you guys next time.